How's it going, and welcome to VU Sports Wired. I'm Eric Single, and this might be our most optimistic episode of the semester to date. We got a lot of stuff to talk about for you in today's episode from the past week, and previewing a couple Vanderbilt sports events to come in the next couple days. But first, we're going to talk about the basketball team. Men's basketball notched its first 2 wins in SEC play the past week. Saw a lot of improvement in a bunch of different areas. We'll cover a couple of them, including free throw shooting, balanced scoring, and then we'll go to our special segment, To the Whiteboard, to discuss a particular point in the Auburn game on Wednesday night when the Commodore showed especially strong half-court execution. And then we'll switch gears and go to baseball season, which is just around the corner. Vanderbilt's men's baseball team begins practice on Friday afternoon on Hawkins Field, the official first practice of the season, leading up to opening day in March. But first, the men's basketball team on the board in SEC play, now sitting at 2-3, but you can't get that second win if you don't get your first one. A huge 58-51 victory for the Commodores, huge for the momentum, huge for the morale of the team over South Carolina in Columbia last Saturday. Keaton Johnson, team's leading scorer, scored just 3 points, and the Commodores still managed to find enough offense to beat the Gamecocks. And what really did it for Vanderbilt was their defense all the way around, reducing the impact of Bruce Ellington and really minimalizing the Gamecocks' impact inside and really playing them competitively all around the court at every position on the defensive end, holding Gamecocks to 23.7% from the field. And Coach Stallings mentioned afterwards that it was important for his team to kind of learn how to win. And certainly with some of the free throws made down the stretch by Rod Odom and Dejon Parker having a strong free throw performance all along, that was a goal coming in, and the Commodores did markedly improve from their SEC worst free throw average of around 57%. And that South Carolina game, they shot around 61%, a little more respectable. But the free throws were not the story of the South Carolina game. They really pale in comparison to the huge impact they had in Vanderbilt's win over Auburn on Wednesday night, 73-61 over the Tigers, who started out 2-0 in the SEC play, but now they're really kind of looking in the mirror, having lost 3 straight in conference play. 4 Commodores finished in double figures: Keaton Johnson, Sheldon Jeter, the starters, and the real surprise is Kyle Fuller and Kevin Bright coming off the bench and finishing in double figures. That was the lineup change that Coach Stallings made before the Ole Miss game, having Kyle and Kevin come off the bench after they had started all year. And Stallings mentioned after the game, after the win on Wednesday, that Kyle had kind of struggled to adjust to that secondary role, but he's really kind of accepted that as a leadership opportunity, and he had another great game on Wednesday night. And Kevin Bright, the freshman, it's always a question of how a young guy like that would take a demotion in effect, but the reality is the Commodores are still splitting minutes in essentially the same way they were before. So another impressive offensive performance for a team that was one of the worst shooting teams in the country for the largest part of the first half of the season, and then at the start of SEC play. So a bunch of encouraging signs for the Commodores as they head into a little stretch where they can maybe build a little bit of a winning streak against a couple struggling teams and a couple of teams that match up well with what Vanderbilt likes to do. But the big story from the Auburn game was the free throws, because Vanderbilt's lead was relatively sizable, had them at arm's length for a good portion of the second half, and Tony Barbee's team started fouling early to try to get the Commodores on the line, shooting free throws, their weakness. But the Commodores stepped up and responded, hit 24 out of their 30 free throws, 80% from the line. That's their best mark of the entire season, and such a marked improvement from their season average that it was the talk of the locker room in the post-game media time. All the players, it just exuded confidence the way they stepped up to the line time after time and were able to put the game out of reach more and more. And Kyle Fuller had mentioned on Tuesday during a little media session before practice how the day after the Ole Miss game, the players had woken up at 6, 7 in the morning to run and shoot free throws as part of a new initiative to tighten up the Commodores' efforts from the line, and it's clearly paying off with a little bit of an improvement in that South Carolina game, and then obviously executing in the Auburn game, being able to put away the Tigers for the Commodores' second straight SEC win. Now we're going to throw it to our weekly segment, To the Whiteboard, to break down a particular offensive possession in the second half that put Vanderbilt ahead by 14 points, really kind of put the game out of reach and just really personified the execution that the Commodores were showing all night long in their 73-61 win over the Tigers. Vanderbilt offense did a lot of things right in Wednesday night's 73-61 win over Auburn in Memorial Gym. But today, on To the Whiteboard, we're going to discuss just one aspect of what was working for the Commodores on offense, and that's their half-court sets that kind of allows them to get open shots inside, and some good passing and execution helped the Commodores really ice the game against Auburn on Wednesday night. This particular play happened with about 5.5 minutes left to go in the game. What happened is Keaton Johnson brought the ball over the half-court line, then passed to Kevin Bright, and then the Commodores kind of assumed this position, which is where the play really gets going from. We have Kevin Bright with the ball here at the top above the three-point line, and then the two guards on the wings, Keaton Johnson and Dejon Parker, symmetrical, and then down in the low block, also symmetrical, Shelby Mose and Rod Odom, the two forwards, set up and ready to start the play. Once Kevin Bright gets the pass, what's going to happen is the two guards, Dejon from this side and Keaton from that side, are going to kind of cut to the elbow and set screens around which Shelby and Rod are going to run identical little routes up to the top of the three-point line to look for a pass from Kevin Bright. In this particular play, in this particular instance, Bright finds Shelby with his initial pass. And at this point, the play splits off from being identical. On the right side, we're going to see a lot of different screen action and passes. And then on the left side, we've kind of isolated this two-man game with Keaton Johnson and Shelby Motes that is going to eventually allow Motes to get free for an easy layup under the basket. But if you can just watch how they symmetrically unfolded, it's an interesting play and perfect execution by the Commodores. After Kevin passes to Shelby, with Rod still kind of curling up towards the three-point line, Kevin's going to kind of do a nice casual run, set a little half screen on Rod's man just above the elbow, and continue on towards the corner and out past the three-point line. But this little half screen frees up Rod enough to take a nice clear pass from Shelby Motes across the top of the three-point line. Meanwhile, Dejon Parker has set his screen. He's going to cut down a little bit towards the basket to get a little space for himself, and then move back out towards the three-point line. And Rod's going to kind of cycle this ball over his way. And so what we have the setup is three Commodores here out on the perimeter, Bright, Parker, and Odom on this right side of the court. Meanwhile, on the left side of the court, Keaton Johnson has come down, set the same ball screen for Shelby Motes to get free of the three-point line. And what he's going to do is wait for Rob Chubb, Auburn forward and second leading scorer, who is marking Shelby Motes, to get past him up towards the three-point line. He's going to kind of stand in place for a couple seconds, waiting for this play to develop. But what Keaton does, a nice little subtle move, he will reverse his position and set a screen to the backside of Chubb, which Shelby is able to run around pretty much the way he came, back towards the basket on the opposite side. Kevin Bright's movement across this field division on the right side of the court has kind of opened up the Auburn defense, which was in man-to-man at this point, and it leaves Dejon Parker an easy passing lane to hit Shelby, and Chubb is not able to catch up with him for an easy layup under the basket. That's how Vanderbilt pushed their lead out to 14 points in the final minutes of the Auburn game, and it really kind of iced it for good as the Tigers tried to make their final. An important SEC road trip to Columbia, Missouri, this coming Saturday, 4 o'clock Central Time is your tip-off. Commodores Tigers. The Missouri Tigers are number 22 in the country right now, but that ranking is a little misleading at this point. The Tigers have struggled mightily in the last 2 weeks without the services of forward Lawrence Bowers, who was the team's leading scorer until he left. He was injured a couple games back. He's missed 4 games with a sprained right knee. And in his absence, the Tigers have really struggled to find an identity inside. It's been a lot of Phil Pressey, their electrifying guard. But it'll be interesting to see how Vanderbilt's rejuvenated big men, Shelby Motes and Josh Henderson, have really stepped up in the last couple games, splitting minutes pretty evenly, but they've still upped their toughness and intensity on the boards and really given the rest of the Vanderbilt team a little more confidence as far as moving the ball through them to start the offense and running plays, just like the one we just showcased on To the Whiteboard. One thing to look out for, the Tigers needed a furious comeback on Tuesday night to keep from losing to South Carolina, who used a really strong shooting performance to jump out ahead with the home crowd, and a couple great moves from Pressey and the rest of the Mizzou offense were able to reel that deficit back in and avoid an embarrassing loss. We'll see how the Commodores respond to the Mizzou offense and the crowd. This is their first trip to Columbia in 2 years, harkening back to an overtime loss to the Tigers, an equally good Tigers team with Brad Tinsley prominently featured, Festus Ezeli, John Jenkins, the entire crew, back in the golden days, as you say. But before then, Friday afternoon is an important day in Vanderbilt sports because baseball season officially begins. The baseball team has its first day of practice tomorrow afternoon, a little bit after 2 o'clock on Hawkins Field. A couple things to look out for, aside from the massive expectations that await this team. Earlier this week, a couple different baseball publications came out with the preseason rankings, and the expectations for Vanderbilt could not be higher. Commodores are ranked number 3 by Perfect Game USA and number 2 by Baseball America in their preseason rankings. And in the conference slate that they're dealing with, 8 or 9 teams in each rankings ranked in that top 25. In the Perfect Game rankings, Arkansas is number 2. It's going to be another thrilling season of SEC baseball with the deepest conference in the entire country. Teams jockeying for that number 1 spot. It might make you think of 2 years ago when Florida, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt would trade places at the top of the rankings all season long. We could have a similar situation this year. So another exciting season of Vanderbilt baseball on deck. With the start of the season came more preseason accolades in addition to the rankings. 3 Commodores are preseason All-Americans. Juniors Tony Kemp, Spencer Navin, and Conrad Gregor will take those honors into their junior year. An important year for draft stock and an important year for the Commodores as a whole after the team struggled to get going in 2012 and kind of picked it up late and did enough to get to the Super Regional and then the 3rd game of the Super Regional before falling to NC State. But again, Gregor figures in to be one of Vanderbilt's most important offensive weapons with the power that he's shown in his time on campus. It'll be certainly interesting to see who can kind of step up and help him out as far as sharing that load, driving in runs, providing power when the team needs it. Mike Yastrzemski was back as well as outfielder Connor Harrell. And then the pitching staff will be completely back. TJ Pecoraro, Kevin Zomek, and Tyler Beatty, all top-of-the-line pitchers who have had excellent moments in Vanderbilt uniforms. We will certainly see how they work together as a weekend rotation with Jared Miller and Andrew Miller helping provide some relief and some of those important midweek starts. We will get plenty of baseball season preview coverage to you as the weeks come on and we lead up to the team's season opener on March 15th against Long Beach State in Nashville. Exciting season opener against a program that has seen its way into Omaha multiple times in the past decade or so. But until then, that's all for today's episode. I'm Eric Single. Thanks for watching VU Sports Wired, and we will be back next Thursday at 6 o'clock Central Time here on VTV. Feel free to follow us on Twitter and keep in touch on VanderbiltTelevision.com to see all of our past episodes and all episodes from all of VTV's many and varied shows. That's all for today. Have a great week, and go Doors.